At the beginning of the film, the main character reasons that she has always seen and heard things that weren't available to others. India Stoker understands that just as a skirt cannot flutter without the wind, she also consists of more than just herself. The girl wears her father's belt over her mother's blouse, and she wears her uncle's shoes on her feet. India believes that an adult must realize that they do not choose who they are born to be, and it is this realization that helps them find freedom. She spends a lot of time in nature doing little strange things. On her birthday, India finds a gift box in a tree. Her mother hears a car gnashing on the street, and after covering a birthday cake, she runs outside, shouting her husband's name heart-rendingly. Unfortunately, in a car crash, Richard dies. The day of the funeral arrives. While Evelyn tries to hold back her tears for her deceased husband, she notices a strange man nearby. At home, India decides to play the piano a little. However, Evelyn asks the character to go to the kitchen and help Mrs. McGarrick before the guests arrive. India sits pensively at the table, listening to the maids discuss how Richard's accident was rather strange. Mrs. McGarrick tells the girl that she was the one who used to put her gift box with shoes on the tree every year. This time it had a key in it, but the woman doesn't say what it opens. India goes out to see the guests and sees the strange man again. He turns out to be her uncle, Charlie. She returns to Mrs. McGarrick very upset to talk to the guests. India was very close to her father and she really misses him. She wanders around the rooms, trying not to engage in conversation with anyone. Charlie follows her for a long time, however Evelyn distracts him. The man soon calls India, who is sitting on the stairs. Charlie apologizes for not getting to know his niece earlier and says that he plans to stay in the house for a short time. The man asks that India let him do this because he has already obtained Evelyn's consent. The next day, the girl is wandering around the garden when she hears voices. India comes closer and realizes that Mrs. McGarrick is in some sort of conspiracy with Charlie. In addition, the woman mentions that she has been sending Richard's brother some information all these years. The next day, Evelyn is awakened by loud music and goes down to the kitchen. The woman tries to get India talking and suggests she go in town to go shopping. She defeats this and tells her that in the Victorian era, mourning for a husband was worn for 2 years. Both India and her mother lose the thread of conversation when they notice Charlie reading in the garden. Finally, Evelyn goes to town with him. India in this time decides to search her uncle's room and things. To her surprise, she discovers the same box in her suitcase as the one Mrs. McGarrick gave her every year. India has to interrupt her search as her mother and uncle return home. Since Mrs. McGarrick is absent, Charlie offers to cook dinner. Evelyn often looks at him. Charlie asks the girl to take the ice cream he bought to the freezer. To do this, India has to go down into the creepy basement. At dinner, she starts a conversation about her father. This upsets Evelyn, and she leaves the table. Charlie offers the girl a taste of the wine and says he would like to be her friend. India, however, feels that this is not necessary. The next day, on her way out of school, the girl sees that Charlie came for her in a convertible. India stubbornly rides the school bus and then walks. In the evening, she brings Evelyn dinner, but she sees that she has fallen asleep right on the chair. In the morning, India goes to school and refuses the umbrella her uncle offered her. It is raining heavily in the afternoon. A girl sees an umbrella on the fence near the house, but stubbornly ignores it. Upon returning home, India is angry to see her mother teaching her uncle how to play the piano while flirting with him. The next day, Charlie cleans up the tennis court and is going to play a little with Evelyn. The man also invites India, who is sullenly reading a book. Soon another shock awaits the girl. Suddenly, Aunt Gwendolyn comes to their house. It is time for dinner. When Charlie leaves the table, the woman tries to talk to Evelyn. Gwendolyn finds it strange that a man stays in the house immediately after the tragedy with Richard. Evelyn thinks that the woman is reproaching her and immediately starts to defend herself. Gwendolyn is going to spend the night at a hotel. India is upset as she likes her aunt, and the dinner with her was much more pleasant. Gwendolyn, unnoticed, passes the girl a note and asks her to call her. The woman stops at the wrong hotel, which she calls Charlie. Gwendolyn decides to call from the landline since she can't find a mobile phone. Meanwhile, Evelyn preens in front of the mirror and takes the wine to visit Charlie. The woman is upset not to find him in his room. India, meanwhile, decides to go down to the basement for an ice cream snack. Gwendolyn, standing in a phone booth, notices a strange figure approaching her. Charlie opens the door and gives the woman the phone she forgot. Afterward, the man begins to remove his belt. India puts the ice cream away in the freezer and sees a scary thing there, a murdered Mrs. McGarrick. Charlie massacres her the same way he massacres Gwendolyn at that moment. The next day, India decides to walk around the school to avoid being seen by her uncle, who has come for her. But she meets Chris and his company. When a guy makes a joke about her mother, India stabs a pencil into his hand. A guy named Veep also intervenes for the character. Upon returning home, India sharpens her pencils, remembering Mrs. McGarrick's face. The girl then decides to play the piano for a while. Suddenly, India feels her uncle begin to play next to her. Through this process, the girl experiences true pleasure. However, when India turns around, she realizes that there is no one near her. In the evening, the girl is lying melancholy in bed when she hears music from downstairs. India goes down to the living room and sees her mother flirting persistently with Charlie. Evelyn even decides to dance with the man. Soon the innocent dance escalates into a passionate kiss. Seeing this through the window, India can't recover. Charlie notices the girl running towards the woods across the lawn. India gets to town and finds Veep, who happily agrees to walk with her. She thinks that today she feels that some new part of herself has awakened and belongs to her. India jokingly runs away from the guy and then starts kissing him. Veep happily responds to her. Suddenly, the girl feels like she wants to leave. However, Veep doesn't let her do this. Luckily, India is saved by her uncle, who appears in time. The girl takes revenge on Veep and then goes home. While taking a bath, India cries as she remembers that, in fact, Charlie didn't just slam Veep, but strangled him. Gradually, however, the girl realizes that this memory rather gives her an incredible and incomparable pleasure. After the bath, India comes to her mother's room, who is obviously waiting for Charlie. She offers to brush Evelyn's hair. India also mentions that she saw her mother dancing with Charlie. The next day, the girl is busy cleaning Richard's room. India manages to open one of the drawers with a key given to her by Mrs. McGarrick. In it, she sees a weapon as well as old family photos. India learns that her father had another brother, Jonathan. She sees a huge stack of letters from Charlie, in which he speaks kindly to her and wishes her luck in all her endeavors. India is very touched by this. Returning to her room, the girl drops a letter and cannot believe her eyes. Although in each letter Charlie tells about a new country, they actually all have the same address, an insane asylum. India wants to call the police, but when she notices her uncle on the street, she changes her mind. She meets Charlie on the stairs and asks him to leave. After that, India asks her uncle what happened to Jonathan. The man recalls that Richard was just consumed with his younger brother. Charlie was very jealous of his brother and started bullying Jonathan. After that, the man was placed in an insane asylum. Years later, Richard decided to get Charlie out of the hospital on a day of his own choosing. On the way, Richard barely speaks to his brother. The man stops at the roadside where another car is parked. Richard gives his brother a wad of cash, documents, and a map of New York. The man also says that he has bought a flat there, especially for Charlie. However, the man is perplexed why they are not going to Richard's house. Charlie gets out of the car and remembers how he buried Jonathan alive. The man then returns to the car and destroys Richard. Charlie tells the girl all of this and then gives her shoes, saying that he has waited all his life for her 18th birthday, which recently came. In the afternoon, a policeman visits India's house looking for Veep. The girl with her uncle come up with a legend to confuse him. Charlie then says that they will leave for New York at night because a flat is waiting for them there. The man strokes India's face, and this is noticed by Evelyn, who is standing upstairs. In the evening, the woman quarrels with her daughter and then asks Charlie to come up to her room. Before that, Evelyn burns all of her husband's memorabilia. Charlie goes up to the woman's room and offers to take her with him. Afterward, the man kisses Evelyn and lays her down on the bed. Suddenly, Charlie turns the woman over and strangles her with his belt, calling for the character. India appears in the hall, holding a weapon. Suddenly, a loud sound is heard. Evelyn recovers on the floor and tries to catch her breath. When she turns around, she sees the deceased Charlie and India standing over him. The next day, a red stain stretches across the house and there is fresh new earth on the lawn. India wears her mother's shirt, her father's belt, and her uncle's shoes. Taking her bag with clothes and a pruner, the character gets into the car that Richard gave Charlie before his death. India drives fast on the road and she is stopped by the sheriff. The girl jokes that she was driving efficiently fast and attracted attention. After that, India destroys the man. Standing on the edge of the road, she feels like the wind is rustling her skirt. India takes a gun and finally kills the poor man who stopped it. This is the end of the movie. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this movie and see you in new videos.